Hi everybody. As you're aware, I made a presentation on phenomenology. Just wanted to frame a question in terms of trying to arrive at a decision as to methods. But the question I had involves cultural or spiritual poverty. And I'm from the Hobbema area. I was raised in Pigeon Lake, so I have a background understanding the spiritual connections that exist for people within my age group. And I would say that there's a lacking in general understanding, and a lot of ceremonies have changed over time, according to elders at least. And I think that it sort of needs to be framed sort of more in sub-questions, because it is a very large scope in terms of the answers that such a question could elicit. And I guess I would ask, there must have been, I know there's pockets of resistance that have stuck out over time, who probably are more of the ones who would be considered the underground practitioners at the time of Prohibition. And when this legislation came out, a lot of our people understood the implications of what that was going to do in terms of the effects. And I guess you could say that there must have been some kind of research way that they knew these certain things, and reading into the future in terms of the idea or the abstract ideas that we currently now are affected by, and knowing that they already had some kind of understanding of them, even though the majority of them didn't speak the language, is very interesting, to say the least. But I would be interested in some of these sub-questions and framing them in a different way, where we can focus on maybe more smaller groups of a random sample that could speak to this, and probably not affected only in Hobbema, because I've been working in Sad Lake for 3 years now. And I see it here, and I see it in quite a few reserves, and in the States. And at the same time, I know that there's these pockets of resistance that have kept alive a lot of the information, and they have maintained the ways, the knowledge, the words, the many concepts that relate to the maintenance of a spiritual reality. And I guess I would like to thank the likes of my Muslims, my Japan, who understood why it was important to keep these things alive, and why it was important to keep these things in our circles as something that needed to be taught and learned and retaught and relearned. And as a matter of fact, it's probably how we got here. So in terms of methods, it would seem like interview questions, video interviews, starting off, of course, with a ceremony. And I kind of liked what Dr. Cardinal said about not really using ceremony in a textual way, or documenting a lot of the things that we consider to be sacred. But I think that there is an existing literature that references the use of sweetgrass, like the Jim Kanapateo text. There's other video interviews that I know exist out there. It's just a matter of access, because a lot of these video interviews were done for a protocol of a specific purpose. And sometimes I think that if we go outside of that person's and agreeing or part of their understanding for agreeing why they were doing it in the first place might be stepped over, and that's not something that I'm really keen on, because my father, for example, had said something in a video interview where I was conducting the questions, but I was conducting them for a research agency that was being commissioned by the government, who we weren't sure what we were doing with the footage or the data that they were collecting. But he had spoken to some of the things like sweetgrass and ceremony in the giveaway context. And I don't think it would be really fair to say that intellectual property could be used in other projects without the express, I guess, consent, and I would even say oral consent of my stepfather, who really did describe a lot of sacred concepts. And though he used the Cree language, I think we still want to safeguard a lot of that information, where we're not going to be allowing these methods to, I guess, impede anything that we believe in, anything that we want to maintain as something sacred. I guess it's my intent to try and maintain that kind of spiritual integrity, being a ceremonialist myself, and being the offspring of ceremonialists, and having so many relatives that do the same thing and think the same way. And I think that's what ceremony has a lot to do with. So, ceremony is the invocation of the process that will allow these things to be done in a good way, and that's what a lot of the things that I was taught and I firmly believe that still. It wouldn't matter what process I was beginning. I think that I always wanted to start with a ceremony. I worked for people who didn't do any things like that, and there were a lot of them were motivated seemingly by money. And the money was coming, and the reports needed to be done, and so the focus of the company became the reports. The reports were not, they didn't really feel like they needed to justify any of their findings to a great extent. And so I stopped working for them, and I didn't fulfill what I wanted to fulfill out of that, and that was to gain a good understanding of some of these contexts in terms of research. But so yeah, those would be some of the methods I would pick, and definitely employing sweetgrass and the pipe and the elders, and the use of spiritual rituals and video interviews, one-to-one interviews, and I think occasionally the questionnaire survey often did fit in there, because we were talking about hunting, and so that we were able to sort of field questions in a quantitative way. So, but I guess you'd have to take the time to really see if that's what you need to do. But I think I said too much already, and that's my take on methods and the ones I would like to try and employ.